Should
Okay.
we fear a Trump presidency? Everything else aside, all the other candidates aside, should we fear a Trump presidency?
I think the answer to that is absolutely, and you're delusional if you think you shouldn't. I'm saying that, and the reason why I say that is, as weak and feckless and stupid as and pathetic the Democrats are, the Republicans are even more ruthless and evil. And we're in an uncomfortable situation where we don't have someone to support that's going to cause positive change. And the real question is whether there will be a rapid defeat or a slow defeat. And obviously slow defeat is preferable to rapid defeat. But you know what I prefer to both of those? Winning some things.
Right.
And, the question of whether is the reelection of Joe Biden a path to victory? Or is the election of Donald Trump a existential threat? And I do think that there's a non-zero chance that Donald Trump could do some really dangerous things. And I think that his hold of the Republican Party is a lot stronger than it was in 2016 to 2020. And so he may have much more institutional backing than he did back then.
Oh, I think he does. I mean, for me, I think
that's what I'm scared about.
Yes, and that makes complete sense. I mean, I always say there's two kinds of people. People who want to change the country and people who want to run the country.
Yes.
And, Trump isn't driven by an ideology. He's driven by a narcissistic desire to run the country and at best to advance his own economic interest, as narrowly defined as those can be. And so because Trump's not driven by an ideology, he's very easy to influence and to sway. You get John Bolton next to him for 5 minutes, he'll want to blow up his, a nursery school, and he also at times is like, we're isolationist. At times he's hands-on, at times he's hands-off. And there's no, to me, coherent, mappable set of political positions he takes that produces that kind of platform. But rather, he doesn't give a shit. He does whatever works in that moment. He does whatever will get him.
He's a ruthless pragmatist.
Ruthless,
you could say a paleogenetic ultra-nationalist who uses pragmatic politics to increase his power. You
use much fewer words to say what I was just trying to say. I think that is absolutely correct. And so, based on that knowledge, rooted in that knowledge, in fact, it makes him scarier to me because he's less predictable. He's harder to sort of, it's harder to determine what he's going to do because it's not like, okay, he's an imperial. Like, I've had lots of conversations, not lots. I've had conversations with John Bolton. I've studied John Bolton a lot, right?
Oh, God.
I know.
The stench of sulfur must have been intense.
Oh, my God. You have no idea. But there's a way that I know that whatever problem he sees or he confronts, he wants to respond with guns and bombs and violence, right? That's just who he is. And so I can easily trace his policy decisions. And if he were president, I could even more easily trace his policy choices based on his ideology that guides him. Because there's certain things he's not going to do. There are other things he's absolutely going to do. It's much more challenging to do that with Trump. And my worry is whatever advances his agenda in that moment will be the thing that he does. And because he has mastered the art of doing 180s, changing his mind completely, telling everybody to fuck off and continue to walk, right? He doesn't have a sense of accountability. You know what it is? He literally is shameless in the most literal sense. He has no shame. And because of that, and he has no moral compass, and he has no political
He's well suited to the time.
He is perfectly suited for the time, but it also makes him very, very scary because he'll do anything.
I think as a leftist, I will be one of the few people who says that I believe that Donald Trump really did want to do a coup on January 6th. He just didn't know how to do a coup. You know what I mean? Like, he was an incompetent. He wanted to do it, but he didn't have the ability to effectuate it, which is kind of wild to say about a president, but also makes sense if you know how our institutions operate.
Wow.
And I think the thing that scares me a bit is that it's not Donald Trump per se. And this is why I bring this up, is I think it's actually the billionaire class in America has learned from Trump, and the Republican politicians have learned from Trump, and that fascism, they've become self-aware that there's really no rules, that they can do this. They can ban protests in Mississippi and nobody will do anything. They can, suppress the votes. They can ruthlessly gerrymander. They can just invent whatever logic they want at a Supreme Court. They can. There's not a constraint. There isn't. These liberal norms are really falling away for the Republican Party as a whole. And I mean liberal in the sense of respecting the minority and
political
liberalism, pluralism, and tolerance, and a loyal opposition. I feel like those kind of beliefs are falling away towards a harder, more ruthless fascism. And we have this kind of development. I think what's going on in Gaza, this is why it's so important to me, because everything that's happening in Gaza will be brought home to people like you and me, man. Like these drones that have guns on them and just shoot people and targeting people with AI and all this stuff. This kind of techno-fascism is,
it's a great word,
is coming for us, right? And it's just, that's what I worry about with Trump. It's not so much that I think Trump is especially dangerous. I think what he has done to our politics is already baked in. And, obviously I don't want him in power, and this is something that I've been hammering on the whole conversation, is we need a Republican Party that is defeated utterly by a Democratic Party that actually has a strategy of democratizing the system, thereby making it less vulnerable to somebody like Trump, right? And they're not pushing for that. They're not, I'll give you an example of some, we talked about, you got to vote for Biden because Trump's a fascist. Okay. Is the Democratic Party campaigning on the idea of ranked choice voting or some other voting system that prevents spoilers? Let me vote for Cornel West #1 and Cenk Uygur #2, and at the end of the day, I'll put a 4 over Biden and a 5 over Trump. Why don't you set up a system to give me every opportunity not to spoil the election? Why not redesign the system to make it more robust, to make it less vulnerable?
I think that's the right call.
They're not doing that, so I don't take them seriously.
Yeah. We get it, but they don't.
Why don't they get it? They're not stupid. They have Harvard graduates, they have people that took political philosophy.
They absolutely, but at the end of the day, it doesn't serve the ruling class's interests. It's really that simple.
The ruling class wants the Republican Party winning. And the Democratic Party is part of that ruling class. The elites of the Democratic Party. Joe Biden said this. You can go look it up. He said he was worried in 2020 that the Republicans would lose by too much because that would be bad for bipartisanship. Can you imagine a Republican saying that? I don't want the Democrats to lose by too much. That'll be bad for bipartisanship.
After 4 years of Obama, or 8 years of Obama, I see why he would say that. I mean, he witnessed it up close. But you're right. The undergirding logic of it, the underlying logic of it is quite scary. And it speaks to a kind of fecklessness, a type of political cowardice, a lack of political imagination and ambition that the Democratic Party has, and I think they're going to pay the price for it in November. I just hope that they just change their policies so that I can, as I said at the beginning, I said I'm easy to please. It may not seem that way with how fiery I got tonight and how much knowledge and anger I have. These are many thousands of hours of effort. Look, and working, and you're frustrated by what you've seen, and I get it. I have no issue with your frustration, and I share your frustration. I'm not sure if I'm in this. I don't know where I am in terms of voting in November. I just don't know. I mean,
let's just work to make Biden better. He would, they did that in 20. This was wild for me. Not to interrupt you, but I just want to say this. They did this in 2020. They went through a whole rigmarole. They did the whole Bernie Biden, committee, and they put together, some policies. They didn't end up pursuing any of them, but he promised to do a public option. He promised to pass a minimum wage. He promised to pass the Equality Act to protect transgender and queer people. He promised to codify Roe v. Wade. He's not even bothering to do any of that. I mean, I guess because we won't get fooled again, but at least lie to me. At least lie to me.
At least lie to me. I think that's where a lot of us are. Like, look, we think all politicians are bullshit. We think they're all full of shit. Just at least pretend to be on my side. At least Fetterman me. Don't Trump me. Fetterman me. But the difference is the Fettermans of the world, they sell so hard, and then the moment they get in, it's over, right? They start pivoting. I need somebody who's somewhere, maybe actually a little in the middle, where they're not.
That's the JB Pritzkers. I feel like JB Pritzker has done that a little bit in Illinois. I'm not from Illinois, so maybe Illinois boys would know better if I'm falling for bullshit, but.
You might be. I think you're gonna be on a really angry rant about Pritzker in like 6 months or a year. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, what? I can't believe I trusted this piece of shit.
Oh, no, I don't trust anybody. I'm just, I just, I'm very pragmatic. It's funny because a lot of people will say like, oh, you're a Bernie or Buster, you're so hard, and it's like, no, I just want somebody who wants to win, motherfucker, and can explain how they're going to accomplish their goals, right? Like. Right now, the Democratic Party is united in their defense of the filibuster, which means no laws will ever get passed. How can you possibly be serious and be supporting? And it's already an anti-democratic institution in the Senate. California has as many senators as Wyoming, and then on top of that, you're going to make it so you have to have 60.
Yeah, it's wild.